Hey, welcome to My Dragon Theater. This will be the first time we'll be talking about the BTS group, and I think we should wish that we had the BTS group on our stage, so we'll pretend they're on the stage. But anyway, that's just a little prequel of what we're doing. My Dragon Theater is just an experimental theater that I've been working on. But today's discussion is going to be about the Wings, Jin's BTS film number Wig. But as you notice, the whole Wings idea is about Icarus and flying too high in the sky. And you've seen the painting, and there's the fall of Icarus there. But anyway, I just thought I'd show that. But today's discussion has to do with the BTS Wings album. And it's number 7 Awake, BTS Member Jin solo. And during this, these are just some little screenshots about what's in the video, and then you'll notice the pictures. This will be as an ongoing series of C.G. Jung's Step Psychology and Big Hit Entertainment's BTS Bangtan Boys, Music and Artists for Healing, which is very important because this BTS is providing in the Army, providing mental health. Today's discussion is about BTS member Jin and his solo performance in Wing short film number 7 Awake. And at the end of the film, you'll see 6 Polaroids. So what's up with the 6 Polaroids? We'll also be discussing Carl Jung's influence on Hermann Hesse, who wrote the book DEMIAN, which many of the BTS Wings albums are based on. We'll also have a little discussion about the Notes 1 that just came out, and also the webtoon called Save Me. We'll be discussing the BTS members, and we will talk about their Myers-Briggs Type. And you can see this is just a little teaser here, but you can see each of the members, and we'll discuss this further during our panel discussion. But this is just to give you a little idea of what we'll be covering during the presentation. The presentation will be quite, it's kind of a long video, but it also has sections, and you'll be able to go to each section, take a break, and then go to each section as we go through the film. So anyway, so let's go to the panel discussion and see what's up.
I'll go last.
Oh, okay. So hi, I'm Jerome Waddle, and I'm from the USA, and I've been involved with Jungian studies, and I'm a Myers-Briggs Type administrator instructor. And what I would like to, I've found BTS to be very using a lot of the Jungian concepts, and so I'm very interested in these discussions because of that. And so we have Mirtes Oliveira from Brazil. Mirtes?
Hi, I'm Mirtes from Brazil, and I'm a BTS fan. I'm from the Army, and I got interested in Jung because of BTS. That's how I got to meet Skip and Jerome.
Great.
Right.
Skip.
And I'm Skip Conover. I'm the founder of the Carl Jung Depth Psychology Reading Group. And through a Jungian analysts that I know, I found out about BTS and what they were doing, especially last April when their latest album came out, Map of the Soul Persona. And I was very excited about that and started to interact with the Jungian armies. And one of them was Mirtes. So Mirtes and I have made a couple of interviews so far about this, but now there's a new interview, or I'm sorry, there's a new album coming out, which is, the new album is called Seven, is that correct?
Yes, Map of the Soul 7.
Map of the Soul 7. Okay. And so I'm interested in learning more about that. And of course, I'm going to continue to be supportive of the BTS armies globally as we go forward, because I think that they're doing some tremendous things to make people conscious of mental health and mental health issues, which is not being properly done in our educational institutions, unfortunately. So,
yeah, and I think that's very important these days. And the new album is still called Map of the Soul, and it's based on Mary Stein's book, Map of the Soul. So it is very related to Jungian psychology. Let me share the screen and we'll get started here. Okay, today's discussion, of course, is on the Awake short film number 7 with Seokjin or Jin. And what I thought I'd do first is to show what we're talking about is Awake. If you can see my pointer here. There were 7 short films that came out on the Wings album, and each of the guys did a solo number. And I think probably on the new Map of the Soul 7, each one of them will do a solo number, it looks like. But that's just my guess. But anyway, we have Begin and Lie, Stigma, First Love, Reflection. These were all published before the album came out, the BTS Wings album. And one of the ones was Introduction with Boy Meets Evil came out. And then Skip and Mirtes, you did the interview on Blood, Sweat, and Tears.
Yes.
If you remember that one. And
right.
so this is kind of where we are in the Wings album or Wings era. And for people that aren't too familiar with the BTS, I thought I'd throw this in to introduce the 7 members of BTS. And each of them has a short film, and we're discussing Jin today. But I thought I'd run through just a little profile. For instance, Jungkook, who does the short film number 1, Begin, and I put his Myers-Briggs type as an INFP, which is an introverted feeling type. So what that means...
Yeah, go ahead. Where did you get these?
They
these
released.
Myers?
Okay, they released them in 2016 at one of the events.
Mm-hmm.
They also
Perfect.
They were talking about Jung long before we knew.
Yeah, and they were. They also listed their blood type, which I don't know why, but that's I'm still trying to figure that out.
I don't know.
But anyway, Jungkook is, I think he's the youngest one. Is that right, Mirtes?
Yes, he's the youngest.
Okay, he's the youngest. He's a filmmaker, and he's kind of a jack of all trades. Anyway, but
right. Maybe you should say something about each personality type, though, since that's particularly Jungian.
Yeah, okay. So in the extroverted world, he extroverts in the objective world with his intuition. And then his strongest suit is introverted feeling, which is a subjective. Okay, and then we go to Jimin, who is an extroverted feeling type. And so that means his strength is extroverted out in the world. And so it means he is introverted with his intuition. So he gets his intuitive hunches from the subjective realm inside.
Right. When we say subjective, you're talking about in the psyche of the individual. Is that right?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, right. Yeah. And let's move over to V, which he's also an extroverted intuitive type. So you've got a mixture here going on, and which means his feeling is intuitive. And then we go to Sugar. Okay, his film is Sugar is the rapper. He's very outspoken. He loves to play basketball. That's all I know about him. But he is also the same as Jungkook. He's an introverted feeling type.
Okay, and this means in dealing with other people, the introverted types are people that are more comfortable in a private conversation at a party, whereas the extroverted people are more like people who like to joke around with lots of other people at a party type thing.
That would probably be a description of if you could prefer to do that in your particular strength and domain, right, and where you'd like to live most of the time. That's probably true. But in modern life, we have to learn to extrovert, and we develop that secondary function. It just depends on the situation and the culture and the climate, and there's a number of factors here.
Sure.
But what Dr. Jung said was that we all have this main strength, primary function, and that's what we were built and designed to do. And the worst thing you can do is to try to develop some other function that's not really yours until you develop your prime function. So, and then let's move to RM, which is Kim Namjoon or Namjoon. He's the leader, and notice he's an introverted feeling type, which is like Jungkook and Sugar. Okay, so we got a pattern going here. But he's the leader, and he's also got IQ of 148.
Yes.
That's measured. And he recently, though, in the last year, has decided he's extroverted.
I don't think you decide whether you're extroverted or not.
Well, with the IQ of 148, he may well be able to do that.
Well, he can do it. Yeah, he can do it when he has to.
Yeah, in other words, they can move and so forth. And then J-Hope, who he embodies hope, and he's pure sunshine, and he's a rapper. He's an extroverted feeling type. So he's really out there with his extroverted feeling, and he's same as Jimin, who's extroverted feeling type. And
okay, so this means really that they react to things more from an emotional point of view rather than a very logical point of view.
That's correct. These are mostly intuitive feeler types. And the thing about J-Hope is that you notice he has sensing as his introverted. So he's not intuitive in that sense. We're all intuitive, but he's not. He would prefer the sensing type when he.
He would prefer to have someone tell him all the details. Yeah, whereas an intuitive person will just assume the details.
Something like that, yeah.
Right.
And then we come to our subject for today, Jin, Seokjin. And guess what, Skip? He's an INTP.
Yep, just like me.
So I'm glad you're here, but Skip's an INTP. So that means he extroverts in the world in the objective realm with his intuition. So he receives these intuitive hunches about what he sees in the outside world. Yet he's very astute in his subjective type of thinking, and he's very good at that type of thinking. So,
right, very logical.
Right.
Not quite so emotional. Not so emotional.
Right.
Although it could be more emotional, certainly.
Yeah. Well, these are things as you develop through life, you learn these different things. You know.
Right. Well, as many of my subscribers have seen, I can get emotional over certain issues, and so I'm probably on the boundary line between thinking and feeling.
Yeah, it comes with experience and age and different things. But basically, you've got three extroverts here. You've got Jim and V and J-Hope, who are very comfortable with outgoing, you know, in this way. And the others, there's nothing. They're intuitive. They're feelers. There's a lot of intuition in these types here, as you can see. So the primary goal of that is to see that the hunches and intuitions that they go through, and they can express that through their
Right.
behavior.
And when they're on stage, because they're intuitive feelers, they can really feel the audience and react to the audience very well, I think. That's one of the features.
Yeah, a lot of good actors are that way. As a matter of fact, Jin was trained to be an actor. He was going to be, he wasn't even a dancer or a rapper, and he was just supposedly good looking, and got him in there. So he's, but he's learning to, and particularly with the solo that we're talking about, he learned to sing that, and he's learned to dance, and so he's able to get in with this.
Well, they're all quite intelligent. There's no doubt about that.
Yes, yeah, they are. And Jen's also is the oldest of the group, and he just turned 28. And I'm not sure if he's really 27, because in Korea, when you're born, you're 1 year old.
Right.
Yes.
So I don't know if he's really 28 or 27.
Let me check.
Oh, okay.
So, Mirtes, has anything happened to their draft status, to their service in the military? Are they avoiding that still?
I have nothing about that. They
heard about that.
Yes.
I still
nothing yet.
I still think they're trying to negotiate with the powers that be for an exception, but they very rarely grant that. But with their fame growing, that might be.
Yeah, I mean, they bring so much honor to Korea by what they're doing that the value to the country is much higher if they keep doing what they're doing rather than sit out in a trench.
I don't know. They said that when the time comes, they will enlist and they will all go. But I don't know if anything changed about that.
I see. Okay, good.
He's 27.
I hope they keep doing what they're doing, because it's so important.
Yes.
For this generation, it's so important what they're doing.
They would have to make a pause of 2 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on with, I think what we'll do is we'll start the video, and music and artists for healing. And when the video starts, you see a blank screen. RM reads a text, and the text is, "The bird fights its way out of the egg. The egg is the world. Who would be born must first destroy a world. The bird flies to God. That God's name is ABRAXAS." And this is a direct quote from DEMIAN by Hermann Hesse. And it's from page 93 to 94 of the book. And so if you want to look at the book, this is DEMIAN by Hermann Hesse. I guess it's pronounced Hesse. Do you know if it's Hesse or Hesse?
I always heard it as Hesse, but
Okay, we'll go with Hesse then.
or Hesse.
Okay, yeah, Hesse. But it's the story of Emil Sinclair's youth. And Hermann Hesse starts out the book. It's really an autobiography of him growing up, and he is the character Sinclair. And he said, I wanted only to live in accord with the promptings which came from my true self. Why was that so difficult? And the whole story is only 8 chapters. It's a very small book. It starts with 2 realms of both worlds. It talks about Cain and Abel, if you think of that relationship. And he gets among thieves, and Beatrice is his first love. And what we're talking about today is when the bird fights its way out of the egg. That's the introduction to. I hear a tweet.
It's my cat.
Oh, the cat tweets?
She's meowing. She never does that. Why now?
It's all right. I like it.
I'm sorry.
I like it. No, it's fine. And then Jacob, if you remember Jacob and Esau wrestling back and forth. And then Eva is the mother image. And then at the end of the story, it seems like the end, but it's really the beginning, because it's a transition from his youth into adulthood. And he's really has become individuated, in other words. Have you read this, the book, Mirtes?
Yes, I have. In the end of 2018.
Yeah, I certainly read it a couple of times. I'm not sure he's individuated at this point. He's matured. He's an adult, but he hasn't. I don't really think that this is the end of individuation. This is just the end of the beginning.
Right. And if you go to Skip's channel, he's got some readings about the stages of individuation, and this is just one of the stages, or that highlight or point.
Right, and there's on the Carl Jung Depth Psychology Reading Group channel, there's a playlist that is especially aimed at BTS armies, so that they can understand how Jungian psychology fits in with BTS.
Yeah, because all of this is related, and but going through and developing as a child, you get into, for instance, all the short films have a quote from DEMIAN, every one of them. Mm-hmm. And there's 4 quotes from chapter 1, and this is just kind of the start. You realize there's 2 different worlds. You know, there's a good and there's evil, and bad people, good people, and family, and so forth. And then First Love, chapter 4, is when you come to your first love, and he can't even talk to the woman he's looking at, you know, he can't interact with her, so he tries to paint her picture.
Right, and Beatrice, that name Beatrice or Beatrice is a reference to Dante's Inferno, and Dante's first love was Beatrice.
Oh, great! Yeah, I didn't know that.
Who was a young woman.
Me neither.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. And then what we're discussing today is chapter 5, and then chapter 7 is Eva, and this is when he kind of gets back and realizes he's kind of back, the female, he's looking at the what he's been looking for, and he gets in touch with that female aspect, which is called Eva, and that's a very important her gaze was for fulfillment, her greeting at homecoming. This was really beautiful here. The other quote, in Boy Meets Evil, you have two rounds. This Hovey started this when the Wings album first came out. This was one of the teasers, I believe. Is that right, Mirtes?
Yes.
And so this, he said he's shaking hands with the devil held him in his clutches. And this is when the bully, you know, he told a story about an apple, and he went to an apple orchard and stole the apples. And then the bully said he was going to report him to the owner and get a reward. And from then on, he was in the clutches of the devil, which was the bully. Okay.
Yes.
And so it was like, okay. And so the bully used to whistle. And you'll hear a lot of whistling in the BTS films, and that's supposed to be the whistle from the bully, in other words. But anyway, that's interesting. Okay, in Skip and Mirtes' interview on Blood, Sweat, and Tears, they said he too was a tempter. He too was a link to the second, the evil world, which I no longer wanted to have anything to do with. And this was when...
part of DEMIAN at this point.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
See, he's releasing...
And is that part of the lyric?
Yeah.
No, it's this is a, how can I say, a pause where
Oh,
the
Yeah, so that was the pause, and that was when you did your interview with that. But you see, he was releasing the room. Now, this is interesting because this is where he realized not only the bully, DEMIAN came in and saved Sinclair from the bully. And Sinclair did not appreciate that because he sensed that DEMIAN was also from the evil world. So anyway, okay, so if we, okay, so we've been talking about DEMIAN, and Hermann Hesse wrote DEMIAN in 1916. It was 1919. And Skip, you'll appreciate this. Look at the calligraphy.
Yes, very much so.
Isn't that something? That must have been in vogue back then or something. So,
Right.
but anyway, Herman, he published this book under I can't say that word, pseudonym, pen name, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that time, for some reason, he was an established author, and he did not want this associated with his establishment writing because it was too controversial at the time, he thought.
Interesting.
And but anyway, before that, go ahead, Skip.
Do you have a sense of why it was controversial?
No, I don't. It's the same reason, well, I'll get to about Jung, but and eventually he published it under his name, but it's been years, you know, might have been 1929 or something like that. I can't recall the date. But Herman and Carl Jung, this is the connection. They became friends while Herman was undergoing psychoanalysis under Jung's assistant, J.V. Lang, who was a Catholic doctor, and he was a student. And actually, Lang was the basis of Hesse's character Pistorius in DEMIAN. So you remember the organist, and this was the first mentor in DEMIAN, and Lang was the character actually. So these are like real life characters in because this is Hermann Hesse's kind of autobiography is growing up, you know. And Jung gave Hesse a copy of his 7 Sermons to the Dead that mentions ABRAXAS. Okay.
Right.
And that's what we've been talking about, is ABRAXAS. And Jung also published this under a pseudonym.
Under pseudonym, yeah.
Pseudonym,
Yeah.
Palisades of Alexandria, the city where East and West meet. So Jung didn't even want to do that, but this was a private copy anyway, but he only gave it to certain people that he thought could understand and appreciate this through Jungian psychology. So
Yeah. He later said that this was a inflation of youth or something like that, because he understood it, and his closest followers understood what he was talking about, but most people couldn't understand it. And of course, it got published much more broadly than he was ready for at that time, 100 years ago. This was more than 100 years ago. So mankind itself wasn't ready for the publication of the 7 Sermons to the Day.
yeah, and then also, I think it was published in MDR, but also the Red Book has the full set of sermons, which is the,
Right.
this was an abbreviated version, I think. And so it's called the Scrutinies, I think, which is the full version of.
Right, that's what's in the Red Book.
Right.
And the reason people weren't ready for it was that it had a lot of reference to Gnosticism, and the Catholic Church had run the Gnostics out of business in like the 4th century. And the basic issue is that between logic and life. Okay, so the word is structure of how you live your life. And so the Catholic Church had developed a structure for Western Europe that they wanted everybody to follow, and they had all these pretty rigid rituals and that sort of thing. But the Gnostics were about experience, and so it's a fundamental difference in perspective. And so, for a good example would be, you can tell a child that the stove is hot, but they're not going to understand it until they touch a hot stove. Then they know what that means. And so you can have somebody tell you all the words they want to tell you about how hot a stove is, but until you've touched a hot stove, you don't know what hot means. And so it's a very critical thing now, because as we're in the so-called meaning crisis, even a lot of our leading philosophers don't understand the significance. So we have a professor up at the University of Toronto who's just done 50 videos on awakening from the meaning crisis. And basically what he's done through the whole 50 lectures is he's given the structure, logical structure, cause and effect. But he hasn't talked about the meaning of your life at all. And the problem is that when we're talking about the meaning crisis is about the meaning of your life. It's not about a dictionary definition. You can't go to any number of books and know what your life means, no matter what they say. You have to experience that.
Well, yeah, you have to experience it and get on the journey and not be, you're going to make mistakes and you're going to be going down the wrong roads. But I think what BTS is doing in presenting this is to say, yeah, you're going to go down some roads. That's part of growing up, but you need to get off your, what, and start experiencing and going out and having experience.
Well, and bad things happen to bad people. Or bad things happen to good people. I'm sorry. Bad things happen to good people, like the ferry disaster in South Korea that was quite traumatizing for South Korean youth at the time. And we have to be able to move on from those things when they happen. You know, I remember when I was, I think, 12 years old, for the first time I had a friend of mine who was killed in a fire. He was on my Little League baseball team, and he had been the first baseman, and it was quite a loss to lose that young man who was my age at the time, and work through that trauma. I'm not sure I've resolved it yet, but so we have to learn to grow up, and so that's what experience is about, that sort of thing. And so the Gnostics were about experience, and the church wasn't. And so the church ran the Gnostics out of business. And so then we've had to bring back what they taught now.
Yeah, so it's kind of like instead of the experience, they just want to follow a certain recommended procedure, you know.
Yeah, cookie cutter life. That's fine. You're going to live somebody else's life, then you're not going to live your own life.
Yes, and what this whole statement about here is that you struggle and you go through here and you have to get out, but you can't do it unless you're struggling. So if you're just lackadaisical about the whole thing, you'll never get anywhere. And
Right.
these BTS, I mean, they train like crazy.
Sure.
They're in
Yes.
big physical shape, and I mean, they train all the time, and they perfect their art, and that's what they're about. And if you can find your passion and find something like that and go for it, I mean, that's what it's about.
Right.
And you can break free and
to the extent we have society giving you a whole bunch of rules and saying this is how you have to grow up and this is what you have to be when you grow up, and then we get a lot of nihilists who are young people who don't feel that they want to be what society is telling them to be, whatever it is, and so they're lost. They don't know what to do. And the point is, you have to get a life. Okay, I mean, literally. I mean, we used to have that as sort of a joke concept in the United States. Get a life. It's even in the movie The American President, where Michael Douglas says, "You got to get a life, man." When his aide comes in at 5 o'clock in the morning, and so he was saying, you know, don't come in on me at 5 o'clock in the morning. Go have your own life. But so the point about get a life is you have to get a life. You have to go out and experience things. And when you're 18 or 20 or 22, all you've done is learn how to solve some problems. But we're problem solving creatures, and we have to solve problems every single day. And so you can't think that you've finished university and therefore everything's going to be hunky-dory after that. And so we see the young man here with the black wings around him, and he's sort of confused because he doesn't know what it all means yet. And what it means is education is preparing you to solve a lot of problems, but then you're going to have to go out and be a problem-solving creature for the rest of your life, because you're going to have to solve problems every day. That's what mature creatures do.
Yeah, and one of the keys here is Sinclair searched for ABRAXAS, and he said we may conceive of the name as that of a godhead whose symbolic task is uniting both, you know, the godly and devilish elements. So ABRAXAS, here's a stone that was, or a ring or something, but it looks like he has a bird's head and snake's feet, and he's sitting over. He represents both of these symbols, and Actually, Carl Jung had a variation. He wore an ABRAXAS ring, but it was a Christian ABRAXAS ring. So it's not quite this design, but it would remind him each day of what it was about. So it was kind of like, you know, what do you call that? Something to remind you each day of something.
Well, you have to have a touch of evil in you. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a terrific scene from the movie The Godfather, where finally at the end of the first Godfather movie, Kay goes and asks, she goes and asks Michael Al Pacino, you know, are you a gangster? And he had told her she could never ask him about his business. And so he said, okay, this one time I'll let you ask me about my business. And so she asked him about his business, are you a gangster? And he said, no. And then he goes in with the men and closes the door. And of course, they were all about being gangsters. And so he lied to his wife, but you know, sometimes you have to, you know, I mean, a simple way to talk about it in everybody's life is, you know, if your wife or your girlfriend goes and gets a new hairdo and she comes back and says, how do you like it? No matter what you think about it, you have to say you love it. Okay. Because if you don't, you're going to have hell on earth.
Yeah, even if you don't. You're
Yeah,
right.
even if you don't. And I just remember once my first wife came home with a hairdo that she was very pleased with, and I was sort of lukewarm about it. And oh my gosh, did I ever hear about that? So you know, sometimes you have to do that to maintain the peace, and you have to have enough maturity to know when it's appropriate and when it isn't, and how much. Right.
Yeah, it's you know, if people are interested in, you know, we're fortunate to have the internet these days, and so, I mean, I'd encourage. I mean, we can't make a video on discussing ABRAXAS or a lot of these things, but just go to the internet and look it up, and you can see histories and all sorts of information on it. So,
Before we move on, I would like to hear what you have to say, because the name of the new album is Map of the Soul 7. And I want to know about the number 7 and the connection with the ABRAXAS and with the 7 sermons, and what.
Well, that's a very complicated question, Mirtes. Do you want to take it first, Jerome? Go ahead.
well, the 7 is a key number here. The 7 planets, and actually, ABRAXAS was. There's stories about him. He's like 365 days of the year rotating through, and there's 7 planets, and there's the number 7 is very significant.
Well, the number 7 is a number that is a prime number, and it's a number that appears very heavily in alchemy, because if you have to remember that the next number from 3 is 4. If you add 3 and 4 together, you get 7, and so that number becomes significant in alchemy and how everything develops. And so numerology is a whole area of knowledge, and so, you know, it's a number that was discovered by Pythagoras, I suppose, about 500 years before Christ, and it doesn't change. Okay, in other words, prime numbers can't change. And so it has a significant place in the way everything in the universe fits together, actually, as the number 12 does as well.
Yeah, then like in the Kundalini system, there's 7 chakras, they call them.
Right.
7 energy centers. So.
Right. So in every culture, there are 7s of something, right? In every culture around the world. And it came to people spontaneously. And it's, in a way, it's a dark number because it's mysterious. We don't, you don't know what's behind 7, really. Okay. And of course, before this name, Map of the Soul 7, came up, obviously 7 can relate to the 7 BTS guys, right? But before this Map of the Soul 7 was announced, they were talking about this being Map of the Soul Shadow. And so
Yes.
I think there's I think 7 can refer in part to shadow. And obviously the darkness of the image there suggests that.
True.
Yeah, I was thinking that the Jung's Map of the Soul, you've got, I was looking for 7 to see if there's a connection here. There's, could be something related to that, but I don't know to answer your question, Mirtes. But
well,
7,
I mean, 7 does come up in Jung's writings quite a lot because of all the writing that he did on alchemy, but it's beyond the scope of an hour-long conversation.
Okay, when the film first starts, you'll notice there's 3 candles, and there's I'm not sure what this is.
Yes, I don't know if you got to see the video from the Are You Late To album, which is the first official album of BTS. And in that music video of No, that's the title track, not the title track, the first single, I think. There is a classroom where the boys are, it is a white classroom, and the boys are all sitting in their desks and dressed in black, and with their facial expressions are the same, like, I don't know how to say in English, catatonic expression.
Mm-hmm.
And there is the teacher. The teacher is dressed in white, and there are soldiers dressed in white in this classroom. Mm. And this teacher has a painting in his eyes, a red painting, like an Indian figure, like not Indian from India, but from like native Brazilians, Native Americans painting. And this teacher puts over the table of each of the boys a red pill. And it's a reference to the film The Matrix.
Oh,
in the Matrix, Neo has 2 options: has the blue pill and the red pill. Right. In the BTS music video, it's only the red pill that the boys have to take. And this bottle is filled with red pills.
That's what I couldn't think if it was a drink or it was pills. It looks, if you look up close, it looks like pills. So that's
yes. And there is a photo shoot where Jin is holding this bottle with the red pills, like he's taking the pill and ready to eat. And this is from 2014 or 2015. this
Oh, it's
reference
very
there in the
interesting.
table. Yes.
Okay,
Got it.
so
Okay.
so this can be a reference to the Trinity, of course. There's a lot of Christians in Korea,
Yes.
but um, the but Dr. Jung's point was that the Trinity is fundamentally unstable because it omits the shadow. Okay, and these are different dimensions now, but it also omits the feminine. And so if you only have the three, the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, then you haven't talked about, I mean, you haven't incorporated into your life the shadow part, you know, the part where Al Pacino says to his wife, no, I'm not involved in organized crime, right? And that's the shadow. And, but the axiom of Maria very simply is 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 3, and 3 becomes 4, which is the 1. All right, and so what that means is you can think of it in terms of a family. First you have either a father or a mother, and then they get together and you have a couple, and then the couple, the symbol of their union is the baby, which is a symbol of their union. And then that becomes a 4th thing in a different dimension, which is the family. And so, and then once you have that new dimension, you have a 1 again. And so the 1 then is the family, and then the family then divides again. And so that's the way everything in the universe develops, basically. That's the idea. And so there's the idea of putting 10 pebbles where you put 1 at the top, then 2, then 3, then 4. And that includes 10 pebbles, right? But in numerology, the number 10 means number 1. And so you go from 3 pebbles to 4 pebbles, which added together is 7. Okay. and it gets very complicated, but my point to you is that here in this image, we have 2 3s, okay? We have the 3 candles, we have the 3 buds coming off of the plant, and you have the 1 shadow that can be combined with both. And there's a reference to a poison apple, which is that, you know, if you're going to be one-sided, you might as well be nihilist, I guess. All right.
Yeah, it's interesting because when this, as this progresses, you'll see that the shadow starts to come. So we'll wait for that.
Yes.
And
go on.
Just wanted to point out, if you'll notice this, there's a mirror back here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And it will show in a few minutes. But
more about this table. I think you remember that in Blood, Sweat, and Tears there is a table, and that Jin is sitting the same place. But in Blood, Sweat, and Tears, the six other members are there.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this time it is Jin, and I think that the things over the table and the objects in the room makes reference to the 6 members too. Yes. The fire of Yoongi, the pills of Hoseok, J-Hope. If you saw the Mama video, J-Hope, and if you know about the story, the character of Hoseok, he takes pills for symptoms. In the story, he's diagnosed with the Munchausen syndrome. I think that's the name. Mm-hmm. And he takes pills to fix symptoms.
Yeah, so, Munchausen's disease. I don't know what that is.
Yes.
But
yeah. It is a disease because the person can be killed by the the means the person uses to provoke the real symptoms to this is I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not sure if what I'm saying is completely correct, but it can damage our health if we take pills or provoke symptoms, real symptoms.
Well,
so we get people's attention and people believe that we are sick, real sick.
right. And so we have in Jungian psychology a preference away from taking medication for mental health. And you know, obviously, if you take pills, and it can help you if you're under the supervision of a professional, but it can also get out of hand, and it can get out of hand no matter how smart you are, because we have this psychologist, Jordan Peterson, who's become very famous around the world, but he himself had depression, and so he started to take pills, and presumably he thought he could control his symptoms and situation, and he found himself addicted and had to check himself into a detox center. And so you know, just anybody can get addicted to pills, and so we have to be very careful about that. You can't, you know, you're not going to find happiness just through a pill. You have to find it through a lifetime.
Yes. And about the mirror that Jerome is about to talk about is a reference to the character of RM, Kim Namjoon.
Right, we'll get to that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, let's. He's contemplating the apple here, and he's giving it a sniff. I'm not sure what he's trying to. Is he trying to decide to eat it or not eat it? That's kind of like a decision point.
Well, it's just symbolic for the fact that you need to have both the idea of the apple plus the instinctual response to the apple, I suppose.
Mirtes, do you know if the apple is related to one of the other BTS members?
To Jimin. The music video of Lie. The short film Lie. The apple appears.
Yeah, and
it's connected to Jimin.
And he's the one that was in the hospital most of the time, right? And
yes.
Did he take the pills too?
I don't know. I don't remember. The pills I always relate to J-Hope, to Hoseok. But
okay.
I don't know if he needed to be to stay in a psychiatric hospital. Probably he would have medication. Remember that there is a possibility that it's about one person. So maybe the story of one single person.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, anyway, he's about to make a decision, so he drops the apple to the floor.
Yes.
And
in many music videos of BTS, Jin is recording with a video camera, or he's photographing. He's always with a camera. This from the beginning. He's always with a camera.
So Jin kind of is always observing, it looks like,
yes.
in photographing, and he's kind of, I would say, behind the scenes a little bit by doing that. So he's taking the time to do that and recording these memories through photographs. And it's interesting, Skip, do you remember the old Polaroid cameras, land cameras?
Yes, sure.
And you can't get film from them anymore, but this is the latest. This is the latest version which they make, and you can get it's Fujifilm Instacam, so it does the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same idea, but you know, I remember Polaroids were about the only thing you could do for instant camera work way back when.
Yeah,
Yes.
sure.
We'll date ourselves here, but I've still got one somewhere, but I can't get any film for it.
So here's an interesting definition of Munchausen syndrome. Is a factitious disorder, a mental disorder in which a person repeatedly and deliberately acts as if he or she has a physical or mental illness when he or she is not really sick. Munchausen syndrome is considered a mental illness because it is associated with severe emotional difficulties. So in other words, it's someone who is upset emotionally in some way, and they don't know how to act it up, so they pretend they're mentally ill.
Yes, and in the story, the fictional story, J-Hope, Hosu, he is abandoned by his mother when he was 7 in an amusement park. She leaves him. She asks him to close his eyes and count to 10. And in the book, he says that before he get to 10, he knew she wasn't there anymore. And when he opened his eyes, when he got to 9, and there was only a chocolate bar beside him.
Oh boy!
So he holds this huge trauma of being abandoned by his mother at 7. And probably this is the cause, because he is the J-Hope Hosuk is the character which is diagnosed with Munchausen syndrome.
So this happened to him in real life or in the...
No, it's fictional. It's in the
fictional story.
The fictional storyline.
I got the notes.
Oh, great! Yeah, great.
Mm-hmm.
She's got the fiction. We'll get to that.
Yes.
Well, it's interesting that J-Hope starred in Wing's short film number 6, which is Mama, where he reunites with the mother, Eva. So it's see the storylines follows along if you can kind of weave in what's going on. Okay, we go back to the 3 candles and the lilies, and what's happening here is he takes a picture and he looks over, and I'm not sure what he's looking at there. Do you have any idea what that?
It looks like like one of those sun. I can't say clock. That marks the time with the sun.
Oh, a sundial.
But I don't know. Yes, but I don't know why is it indoors. But looks like that. Maybe other thing, but it looks like that.
Yeah, it is kind of blurry, so I didn't know.
Yeah.
Well, all of a sudden the shadow starts coming, Skip.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then here's a picture of the mirror, the frame mirror, and there's a signature on the mirror. And let me see, this is, it says, it's interpreted, you need to survive.
Yes, it's related to Kim Namjoon's character. His theme is reflection. So he's always connected to mirrors and glasses. Glasses. He always writes with his finger in windows. This phrase, you need to survive. And this is a reference to him.
Right. And of course, that's one of the 2 fundamental things that all of your ancestors have ever done, which is going all the way back to the beginning of life on Earth. Every one of your ancestors before you has survived up until you. And and they survived at least long enough to reproduce. So there's two things that you have to do in life, in theory, or you're instinctually going to do. One of the two things is survive, and so you need to survive, and then Mother Nature normally gets you to reproduce as well.
It's kind of a mantra that he's writing on these glass and mirrors and so forth. So again, he's putting it out there. Then all of a sudden the shadow is starting to come over and engulf everyone. So, and so it fades to black.
And I think about this, he looks at the camera. It's like cinema technique that Woody Allen used a lot, that facing the fourth wall. It's like he's saying that he knows that this is not real, that he's aware of the audience. I don't know if this is used there with the same purpose, but I remember that, well, maybe it's a way for them to say that we know you are there. We're doing this to you, so pay attention.
I like that. Yeah.
Okay. Many of their videos, they one of them look at the camera directly.
I see.
Yeah, that's I've noticed that in a lot of the videos. But
now, what is the significance of this lyric? Is it a lyric now that I didn't have a dream? What is that?
Yes, it goes to their first single, that is No More Dream. Their first song, their first video is about not having a dream. Although society and the adults force their own dreams into the youth. And so they made a song to the young people without dreams.
Okay, so you're not talking about dreams at night dreams. You're talking about wishes for one's life.
But I think that they use in both senses, because many of their videos have this dream quality, those surreal settings, and many situations, the settings are different, but the situation is the same. We always have a couch, we always have a central door, we always have Jin looking through a window. Situations repeat. There is always the bed. Situations repeat, but the colors are different. The moods are different. It's like they are always going back to the same place, but with a different feeling, like a different. I don't know.
Because all of our lives are different, right?
That's
yes.
True.
And it's and by the way, when I mentioned reproducing, it doesn't mean a physical reproduction. It can be, what is your contribution to the human species during your lifetime? It doesn't have to be a child. It can be something else. And
yes.
And so then whatever you produce goes on after you're gone, right? Somehow. Right?
That's true. Okay, now he's walking down to the hallway.
Somehow he's following the echo.
Yeah, and you see a slit in the door, which I always like the idea, you see a slit and it's, you try to see what's in the door, a crack, different things. That's my significance here. And also if in V or Taehung's symbol, it shows a sphere with a crack in it. So it's like
yes.
a little light coming out or something. Anyway, he opens the door and Okay, so we have the same scene. You've got a female on the left and a male figure on the right. You have here's a picture of the mother and child over here.
Yeah.
And so you have all these symbols.
The bed looks like a hostile bed.
Yes.
Yeah, it
And the
does.
two figures are looking the opposite. They are.
Oh, I didn't notice that. Yeah,
So they're
away.
looking away. They're not
Yeah.
understanding the pain in the hospital or the illness in the hospital. They don't want to know. They don't want to know.
Yeah, interesting. And so he walks in, and this is really gets creepy here.
Yes. I love it.
Look at that look.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a look like, you didn't tell me about this one.
Yeah, I didn't see that one coming. But now the door closes by itself.
He is a good actor.
Yeah, so the door, is that magic or what? But anyway, the door is scratches on the door. Like
Yeah. And in Taehyung's short film, he's scratching a door. It's not exactly a door. It's one, when you're having stores, that steel door, where he had the figure of the ABRAXAS. He painted it, and he's with a screwdriver. He's scratching that door. I think this is a reference to him. Why this door has scratches?
Yeah.
Why Taehyung was scratching that door?
Yeah. So Taehyung was he's in number 3, Stigma short film.
Oh, one interesting fact. I think I mentioned to you too. When he was in his film, when he was doing that, he was using a Nirvana T-shirt.
Right.
And there is a mugshot of Kurt Cobain when he was, I think, 19. He was arrested because he painted in a wall, on a wall. He painted "God is gay."
Yeah, graffiti.
Yes, and in the BTS short film, Taehyung is arrested because he painted the ABRAXAS.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Also, the fact that there has been scratching at the door, if you go back to the idea of the look back, so whoever has been scratching at this door wants to get in the door, but once he gets in the door, he says, "Oh my God, I'm in front of a hospital bed," and the adults are looking away at it, and it just reminds me of a famous Rumi quote. Rumi is the Sufi mystic from about 700 years ago, and he says, "There's knocking at the door. The door opens. I've been knocking from within."
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. And so you're scratching at a door thinking you want to go in, and then once you get in there, you go, "Oh my God, I didn't know this is what I was going to find."
Yeah.
And what do these symbols mean?
And now here he's playing with a lighter. And
the lighter that is always in Mini Young's hand. He in the video of "I Need You," and in the Save Me. Did you read Save Me, Jerome?
Right.
The webtoon.
You're right.
That's how Yoongi tries to kill himself. He's in a hotel bedroom, and he sets it on fire with a big lighter. And this lighter appears in Jin's hand in many videos. I think in 3 or 4 videos. The same scene. He's sitting on a bed, and he lights it, And then there is another one where it is the same scene. He takes 6 lily petals, puts on the ground, as we are going to see in this one, and sets them on fire. I don't remember exactly what video it is. I think it is in the beginning of the Euphoria video.
Now he takes the 6 petals and he lays them out. You notice there's 6 here.
And you remember in the VCR of the Melon music video that the lights are using Namjoon's hand now. This is the first time.
And it's interesting that he's got 6 petals and he's number 7.
Yes.
So we're back to the 17.
Yeah.
And then he burns the petals, and I'm not sure what's the significance of that. And
what's the meaning of, what does it mean to set something on fire in a ritual? I don't know, maybe transformation.
Yeah, transformation, definitely, and all, you know, whatever. I mean, that's a very powerful image.
Yeah.
It can mean that he wants to, you know, inherit everything that the other 6 have.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of a shadow thought to think you'd like to get rid of your brothers, kind of thing, or your fellow band members, because, you know, if you do that, then, you know, it's like kill the goose that lays the golden eggs. You know, the band itself, as an international phenomenon, is making all kinds of money and making all kinds of golden eggs. But if something happened to the band in any way, not all 6 necessarily, but even if 1 left or 2 left, it would destroy that global phenom, and it would have to be built up again. And so it's like the Beatles. You know, they were something that was a big deal together, but they weren't really that much of a deal after they separated, except while John Lennon kept doing things, and, you know, but his fame and even his work and Paul McCartney's work was nothing like what the fame of the Beatles. And so, you know, the team has to stay together, and it's a shadow side thought to think, okay, I'm going to get rid of these guys and just be myself. I don't need the group.
But I think that in this case, in this short films and in the story in the book, I remember the last Wednesday when we were reading that part of Edinger's when he talks about active imagination, and he talks about seeing it as a theater where you have your the characters, and that you have to enter the play, you have to be part of it.
Right.
And I maybe I'm getting ahead of what we were going to discuss today, but I see this as a process, as an active imagination and dream work in progress. Yes. And maybe the 6 boys in the story, the other 6 members, are parts of Jin. Are, I don't know, maybe aspects of him, or sub-personalities, or...
They certainly are that. They certainly are that. But this symbol of destroying them, especially if they're a symbol of parts of him, the idea that he's destroying those parts of him, my goodness. Oy, oy, oy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's scary, actually.
Yeah.
Boy, this video image though is quite amazing with all the swooshes
Yes.
off the fire and everything, and the blue flame.
And there's more.
Yeah. Okay. Go
Let's.
on.
And there is another video of BTS. I don't remember if it is in I Need You or if it is in Euphoria. Where no, it is in I Need You, where Jin appears wearing the similar clothes that he's wearing there, and he is a dark room. He is close to a wall, and there is a projection, like a movie theater projection in the side of his heart, with a lily flower with 6 petals open projected in his shirt, the side of his heart.
So after he burns the petals, and he lays down on the bed, and the room starts going around. But I thought I'd point out, here's the painting that he keeps. Remember in DEMIAN, and
yes,
he keeps trying to paint a picture of his girlfriend Beatrice, and it ends up looking like himself, and then it ends up looking like DEMIAN.
yes,
and then it ends up looking like Eva. So,
and this painting, Jungkook, in Begin, he's painting it, and I think that is kind of a junction of all the boys' faces. I think that this picture is them all.
So that's interesting, yeah. So it's a kind of
like in DEMIAN, that it's Beatrice, and it's him, and it's DEMIAN, and it's Eva when he meets Eva later.
Yeah. And it's actually all, from a Jungian standpoint, these are all aspects of yourself.
Yes.
And you're merging in, and you end up eventually as an integrated, to some extent. We never can be fully integrated, in my opinion. And there's also the picture of the mother and child with Eva. And then there's the piano, which is
related to Jungian.
Sugar's piano. And then here's a locked chest with a chain on it.
Yes, this locked chest, it appears in the VCR of BTS Begins in 2015 or 14, I'm not sure. And there is when they are in the storage room at school, abandoned storage room, where they used to meet the fictional story. They used to meet there, and they discovered a chest like this, and inside they find, in the video they find bulletproof vests, but in the notes in the book they find Jin's father's diary notebook, map of the soul. They find the notes of his father in this chest, in the notes, but in the video they find the bulletproof vest, which was their symbol at the beginning, their logo.
What's interesting about Jin's father's diary is that the latest thing that they've, rather than, even though it said map of the soul, the latest thing I read was that his book contained all of Jin's father's failures.
Yeah.
And that, so he's using it as a guide so he won't make the same mistakes as his father did.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting twist in terms of what the latest thing Jin has been saying about his father's diary. And of course, Jin, the actual person, His father is a CEO of one of an electronics company. He's very well-to-do family, and I think his mother was like a beauty queen or something from South Korea, and so he grew up in a very what we would call, affluent family, and
Privileged family.
right, very privileged.
Yeah.
But in
The
short,
only one from BTS that came from a rich family, a
yeah,
wealthy family.
yeah. So it's
Interesting.
interesting about his story. Anyway, okay. Now this has got to be. He's in. I love these pictures. That swirls and everything. He's. And I like that. The room swirling around, and so he's going through some sort of. Have you ever had the room spin around you?
Have what?
Have you ever had the room spin around you? When you're sick.
I had
something?
migraines that look like that.
Here he's almost in the fetal position, and he's really going up. And this one I really love is in his eyeball. He's looking out the window, and here's the the bird flying. So wings flying, and just an interesting picture of an eye, though. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
See that the figures they are pointing to us. They are not looking opposite each other. The statues beside the bed, they moved.
They moved them.
Well, there's one turn still.
The male one is turned back. I can't see because we are.
Well, they're on the opposite side because the female. Well, no, this is the female.
The male one, I can't see. Did it turn too?
Yeah, it's no. This one looks like it did not turn.
Only the female, only the female figure.
Anyway, this what Jin's doing right now in this next thing. He's always going to a curtain and he's doing this.
Yes.
Throughout all the videos, he always goes to this curtain. His latest teaser for 7, he did the same thing. They show him in a thing. He looks, and this is what he does. He opens the curtains and he looks out, and this is the theme. I'm not sure what it is, but
well, looking out into life, trying to understand. I mean, throughout this, I have the impression that he's still sort of befuddled by everything that's happening. I mean, just think when you're a young person, there's so many things being thrown at you. It's hard to sort out, what you're supposed to do in life and what's just training and what's your mission kind of thing in life. And so this fellow really, at this point, really looks like he's sort of confused about what he might want to do in life.
Or he could be like, he is introverted. He could be like, from the inside, he wants to go look at the outside.
Yeah, he wants to, but he's protected by the window. And certainly all of us, when we're growing up, we want to be separate from the family and have our own life, but then, it's awful nice to have mom make dinner every night type thing, have a place to sleep and so on.
That's exactly true. Now this next scene is, this one I go with, he touches the mirror and all of a sudden it ripples.
Yes.
I love this thing.
It
reminds me of the Matrix when Neo touches the mirror, and then of course it grabs him and stuff. But But of course, he's still in a dream state here, I would assume. And then he hears a big noise, like a big bang.
Yes.
And he's startled, and he turns. Oh, we cried and laughed a lot, but it was so beautiful. Okay, it's from the most beautiful moment in life. So, okay, so the notes came out, which documents all of the notes that have been written about all the albums up until the not Persona, but before Persona.
Not all the albums, but some. I think from the most beautiful moment in life, they started to release notes.
Mm-hmm.
So these notes are like journal notes or what?
Yes. I thought it was a diary, a journal.
Yeah.
But when I heard about the map of the soul, I thought maybe this is someone's dreams or active imagination notes. Maybe this is a red book.
But it's a progression of the storyline, the fictional storyline.
Right.
And it's by dates, and it's by what each member said on those dates. And so it progresses all the way up. As you said, it's not Persona, but then I think Mirtes sent us an update on the notes from Persona.
Yes. Skip, you bought the albums, right?
Yes.
4 versions.
Yeah.
Did you see that there is there are small books inside them in Korean?
No, I didn't, because I kept my four albums in pristine condition. So
I know.
So I did not open them.
I sent you the translation of the notes from Persona, but this book covers the notes until before Persona. And together with this book, as a pre-order gift, they gave Army a notebook, a blank notebook. Why would they do that?
They're telling you to keep a journal.
They want you to keep a journal, your own red book.
Yes, I thought about that, maybe. Why a blank notebook?
Yeah.
Well, just for that reason, that Dr. Jung, Dr. Jung was very adamant that you should be creative in your lifetime and keep track of what's happening in your life in some way. And so he demonstrated that in many ways. He demonstrated it by building a house. He demonstrated it by doing stonemasonry. He demonstrated it by doing the red book, which you see behind me, and by doing many paintings and so on. And it, it means your life is significant, and when you're gone, this is going to represent you and represent what you are in life. And so, I mean, even these videos, even these interviews, Mirtes, are, representing all 3 of us in the future. So I have a granddaughter who's now 4 days old, or 3 days old. She's 3 days old. And, I'm 73 years old. So by the time she's old enough to know anything about me, I may not be here anymore. And, or to have an adult view on who I am and was. And so one of the big things that I have done is build up my YouTube channel in such a way that I have messages for all of my grandchildren that I'm leaving behind for them, because I can't sit with each one of them and tell them all the things that I think are important. And so, this is my way of doing it.
Yeah, so you could do it with memory sticks nowadays. So they should include a memory stick with your notepads.
Right. Yeah.
But anyway, the idea is to create Well, you can also use to write dreams, so like a
Yeah.
journal if you want to.
Right, a dream journal.
There's all sorts of uses, but as Skip said, is for different generations, you don't have to be famous anymore to document and give people a gist of what you're like in your life and describe some of your experiences through that.
And what was important to you. And then,
Yeah.
you know, because, oh my God.
Well, it's kind of like Jin's father's notebook that he found.
Yeah.
So he's able to gather from that, maybe not make the same mistakes he did, or maybe make a model after something he did, you know.
Right.
Anyway, I thought I'd mention the webtoon drama, which is, the webtoon is available on, is it the Amino app, BTS?
No, it's available in the Webtoon app.
Oh, okay.
It's a I think it's Korean platform for what? How do I say, comics?
Anime,
Mm-hmm.
maybe.
No. The not anime because they are not cartoons. They are comics. They are like electronic books with these stories like mangas, and the web and the Korean is the manhwa. I think that's the way we pronounce it. But the electronic version is a webtoon, and there is this app. There is a platform where they posted their webtoon called Save Me.
Yeah.
That is inspired by the same the most beautiful moment in life from the notes, and from the album, the most beautiful moment in life. And go on.
It's a pictorial reenactment of each of the stories that are in the notes.
So
it's very clever, and
yes.
it's very interesting. I'd encourage people to watch that. So you can just get it online, right?
Yes, you install the app, and you have all the stories, all the chapters there.
Yeah.
Okay.
For free.
I just installed Webtoons. Is that the one?
Yes, Webtoon.
Look for
and you look for Save Me.
It's a drama called Save Me. So,
yes. And about that time the Webtoon was released, I remember that people were trying to understand what kind of story they were telling. We knew about the fictional story, but we didn't know exactly what it was about. We only had the videos, some random notes, and when I started from Fake Love, I knew that there was, I knew BTS through Fake Love. So I'm baby ARMY. I'm ARMY since 1918. So the first video I saw was Fake Love.
2018.
Oh, yes, 1918. I'm not that old.
Not quite.
I'm sorry. And from the moment I saw Fake Love, I knew that there was something different, that their facial expressions, that the movements, the dance moves looked like something related to mental health issues. But I only had seen that video. Then after getting to know more about the BTS and the fandom, I heard that they were telling a story through the videos. And I started to watch the video to try to see what I could get. And I thought, well, this is about mental health. But there were a lot of people that thought about time travel. And they believe that the story was all about time travel. made sense. I'm a Doctor Who fan. I love everything about time travel, from somewhere in time to the Terminator. But I didn't think it was all about time travel. And when Save Me came out, I thought that these time travels that really there were there, that maybe they weren't real. Maybe they were dreams, you know, like in the notes that
Right.
When someone make a mistake and gets obsessed about if I had done different, if I did different, if I didn't say that, if I had said something different, maybe this bad thing didn't happen. Look to me, something like someone obsessed with that, with atonement, trying to correct something, that correct the mistakes from the past. They're dealing with his regret. Someone who feels guilty for something. And in the first or the second episode of Save Me, Jin is reading a red book. And I thought that maybe this was another reference to Jung.
Yeah,
maybe this is a reinforcement that this is about someone going through analysis. Maybe.
Well, that's interesting because in the story, Jin is trying to recreate the situation and save the guys. That's why it's called Save Me.
Yes.
Because he felt that if he could change the situation and not have done this or done that, and it is kind of the same thing as therapy,
Yes, I thought about that.
That's a very good observation, really.
Right, but you're not hitting yourself over the head with it. You're actually, it's I mean, there's nobody in analysis in these videos, right? They're
not declared that Jin is in analysis. No, this is my interpretation.
Yeah.
Right, but
I can be completely wrong.
No, you're not wrong. But
I can be.
I'm in an you're not wrong. I'm in analysis too. You see it over my shoulder, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not in analysis with a Jungian analyst. I'm in analysis with myself and Dr. Jung directly. He's my analyst. So
the story reminded me of the Time Traveler movie. I don't know if you've seen The Time Machine.
Yes.
I saw the old one long ago.
Well, the professor, Time Traveler, he was walking in the park with his fiance, and she got mugged and shot and killed. And then so he invented a time machine so he could go back at the same time period. He didn't take her to the park. He took her somewhere else. She got killed again. What's interesting is in the last time before he gave up, he went to a flower shop to get flowers, and then she stepped out and she was killed by a flower truck. So
this is exactly how it happens to, remember the highlight reel, the story of Jin's girlfriend? He went to the Esmeralda flower shop to buy her the Esmeralda bouquet.
Right.
And she is she's hit by a car and dies in front of him. Yeah. And in the story, we discover that the car that kills her is the Esmeralda shop car, because Jin asked for the bouquet, but they forgot the card, and he asked the man to come back to give him the card, the note, and that's the time when she runs to him and the car comes back and hits her. And it's very similar to the film, the Time Machine. She's killed in front of the flower shop. So He didn't say we use the inspiration by the Time Machine film, but it is there, like Black Swan.
Yeah.
Right. And so finally, I mean, spoiler alert, tell me what happens in the end. He finally gives up and recognizes that he has to accept that she's going to be dead.
Yeah, he gives up, but he goes into the future and wants to see what the future is like, and he finds a relationship with someone in the future.
He decides that he understands that he created the time machine to save her, but he can't save her.
Right.
If he saved her, he wouldn't. I mean, the condition for him to create the time machine was because she died.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the paradox.
Yes. Okay.
She needed to die so he was able to travel through time.
You know, we can't go back and save the one who died from the flu, because if we did, that would change everything.
Yes.
Right. And so it's a lesson of growing up that we, you know, something bad happens in your life, it's appropriate to lament about it, but then we have to move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, you try to create it and change it. You know, you need to learn your lesson, I think, and just move on with it. So let's go back to
I think it was a card that he asked, and the owner of the shop didn't give him, but for a reason he asked him to come back.
Right.
And the card got his girlfriend.
Right. Yeah. Right. Okay. So now he's decided something. He heard the noise, remember, and now the door's open automatically.
And here's the hall there is in many of the BTS videos. The same hallway.
He walks past the apple.
Yes.
And
the wallpaper.
The wallpaper is interesting because it is, we'll get to that in just a minute, but before I mention it, is Hermann Hesse always said he felt like he was walking down a hallway looking for light, you know, in the darkness behind him. So that was one of his quotes. But the wallpaper is ABRAXAS covered.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And
interesting.
So all of those symbols, we'll see the symbols up close in just a minute. But so he's walking down and he's attracted by the bird picture. Yeah, yes. The bird flights out of the egg, and you'll notice the pictures of ABRAXAS. That was the wallpaper. Somebody went to a lot of trouble to.
Boy, no kidding.
They just
really.
I mean, that's how precise and they do things with Yes and Big Hit. I mean, it's
that's an impressive aspect of BTS, no doubt.
Attention to detail, and of course, this is again the bird fights its way out of the egg, and we found some. Mirtes found some interesting parallels here, and I think it's on 21. This is the latest MMA awards in 2019. It comes out with a horse, and there's a person on top of the horse. And
that's Jin.
Jin is on top of the horse. And look what Mirtes found. Here's a picture of ABRAXAS with 4 horses.
Yeah.
Coming out.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah. And then I thought this was amazing. And so they're marching out. And these are, their live shows are just absolutely tremendous. They spent a lot of money on their live shows. So it's just, you know, to be able to see one.
I guess, the 28th of January, we're going to have on the Late Late Show their first performance of one of the new album
songs.
Yeah.
James
Well,
Corden.
and the other thing she found was this, the reveal.
Yes.
Notice
From
that notice that it's black and white, and it's
This
the
is
veil. You remember the veil, and you lift off the veil like blood, sweat, and tears. Had the veil. There's always these veils.
This is Kim Taeyang, and in the blood, I think he is Jin's black swan. He's Jin's shadow correspondent.
Perfect.
There is one video, the Blood, Sweat, and Tears Japanese version. They have an actual fight, physical fight in the video.
That's
so he's always confronting Jin.
Yeah.
You know, I think he's the expression of the shadow, the black swan.
Yeah, that's I mean, that's perfect. And you see how the light and the dark and this going back and forth. This is so appropriate to what we're talking about, you know. So it's scary.
Yes.
Right.
That's great. Okay. And thanks, Mirtes, for finding those. And
well, and I think
and also in the Blood, Sweat, and Tears video, Taeyang, he's under a veil. I don't know. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
That there is a transparent veil over him. There is a beautiful image of him under.
Right.
It's the same person.
He's
the one who covers Jin's eyes in Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Then.
Oh, and then takes them back off. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, this is starting to make more sense to me.
Well, there's always a sense of clearing up a fog during this period of growth, right? So Dr. Jung talked about the fact that when he was 11 years old, he suddenly was awake and realized that he was himself, and it was like a fog cleared away. So that's like having a veil clear away. The other thing I wanted to mention was the black swan. One of the things that we need to understand is that the black swan is often a surprise. For example, when the economic crash of 2008 occurred, then somebody wrote a book called The Black Swan, which was about how this unexpected statistical event occurred, which caused the crash. But really, I said to my business teachers, why didn't you teach us about the black swan? And they didn't know about it, okay, until, so then later on they said, oh, well, that was a black swan. Well, yeah, they know about it after this guy wrote the book, this Black Swan, but they never mentioned it when I was in business school, right? And so they never mentioned it as a possibility even. So one of the issues here is that sometimes these things are unconscious and they're also illogical. They can't be resolved by rationality. I mean, if you look at this image right now that's on the screen, there's nothing rational about that eagle flying up into the sky. That eagle is pure instinct and fury.
Do you remember that in Blood, Sweat, and Tears he had the same expression looking to a painting?
Yes.
And in Spring Day he has the same expression looking to a washing machine. Yeah. Maybe this is the same moment that he's going back.
Right, and so these guys are still trying to figure out life, and so that's, they're looking at these things, and they're still, young, they're in this transition phase to adulthood, and they're trying to figure out what life means and what these images mean.
But they're also presenting this in a storyline that we could relate to. I wish I'd have seen these when I was a kid. You know, I mean, I'm not aware.
Absolutely.
I mean, we
were living in La La Land.
We were just stupid about the whole thing. Or as you said, you know, the black swan was never explained to us. You know, but here
nobody ever mentioned the black swan, and then all of a sudden, bang! And so after that, all the professors are very wise because now they know about the black swan, and they can say, "Oh yeah, that was a black swan." And well, I say, "Yeah, but I just lost my life savings. Why didn't you mention this back when I was in business school?" And the answer is they weren't that wise.
That's right. Yeah, they just thought they were wise.
They just thought they were smart. They weren't smart.
Okay, let's move on to get going here. So he looks at that a while, and then here we come again with the. Here you go. I love these looks.
Yes, me too.
Well, yeah, it's a very pregnant look. He's telling you something.
Yeah.
Yes, and
yeah, he's the actor, so he definitely got the right field.
And this is the significance of meaning now. Okay, you have to take the meaning out of that look without anybody explaining it to you, because you could write 2 volumes and you would never quite capture what that look was.
Yeah, and it's just like the Black Swan dance routine that just came out on 7. I mean, I can't explain my feeling about it at all, but I got it.
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
absolutely.
and it's very powerful. I mean, you know, I mean, very powerful. Okay. Anyway, Skip, you'll notice the shadow.
Oh yes,
it's following.
I don't know if you heard my video about my dream and shadow from yesterday.
Yeah, I did. That's why I thought I'd point it out. But anyway, there goes.
No, I want to watch it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a prophetic dream about my granddaughter, which was very comforting, actually.
Oh, that's.
And then I carried it into an active imagination, and it got less comforting. But as far as my granddaughter was concerned, it was fine. But for me, it was a little questionable.
You got a surprise confrontation with your shadow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, of course, I knew that before, Jerome, but nonetheless.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so the final scene is you retreat back into the room, and this is what Jin had left behind were the photos. And in our
remember that it was 6 petals that he burned. Now,
oh, the 6
Polaroid. He left on the ground the 6 petals, and now there are 6 Polaroid developing.
That's magic. Magic.
And one thing interesting, I mentioned that this hallway is present in many of their videos. So in Boy with Love, there is a scene when Jin sings, "You Can Be My Teacher," remember? And they think about the place that he was now before he went away. There is like the perspective is of in Boy with Love. The perspective is like he is there in the hallway, and behind him the 6 boys are dancing. The 6 other members are dancing. So it's like the same scene. He is there in the background is the Polaroids, the petals, and in Boy with Love he is there in the. I don't know how to say but I think in the foreground is his face, and behind him is the 6 other members dancing.
Okay, so
Just to mention that this
right.
made me think about the scene of Awake.
Yeah.
And Mirtes, do these 6 photographs, the 6 Polaroids, can you link them to each of the other
We will.
singers? Pardon?
We
will.
will. Yeah.
Oh, we will. Okay.
The first one that's starting developing is if you remember the picture frame that we showed with the writing on it.
And the mirror.
Right.
Yes.
That's exactly what that is. And that is from RM's short film
I see. All right.
called Reflection. So that's, in other words, these are really clever the way they picked these out. So there's a whole theme that was designed ahead of time here.
Yes.
Well, yeah, they had to if they were developing these in real time. Holy cow.
I don't know how they did that, but anyway. Anyway, here's the second picture that's developing. And
oh, yeah.
That's
Mother and child.
The Mama was the short film from J-Hope's number 6 short film. And then guess what? The apple's back.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that's related to Jimin. Why?
Right. That's the number 2 was Lie in Jimin. And Piano, I get Piano all the time. That's Sugar Piano. He was from number 4, First Love. So Sugar.
Yes.
And then of course here we just saw the but
the
this
eagle.
Was but this, if you watch short film number 1 with Jungkook, this is his painting.
Yes.
See that?
He receives I think a letter. When he opens, there is this bird, the drawing of the bird.
Yeah, that's DEMIAN receives the letter that Sinclair had sent in DEMIAN.
Yes.
So,
and when Sinclair goes to Damien's house, he sees the like Jin was there. He sees the bird he drew in the wall, on the wall, I think.
Yeah, he enters into Damien's mother's house, Eva.
Yes.
And sees the painting that he had sent to Damian. So yeah. And so here's the scratches again. So
related to Taeyang.
Right. So that's Taeyang or V's number 3 stigma, which I get the stigma part with the scratches, that the title does that. And so just to summarize that,
very powerful.
Yeah.
Right.
So here's the summary of the photos. So you can see what we're talking
I see.
about.
So you put those summaries in there, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. I just went through and did this. And
I see.
So one of the puzzles of this was to figure out what these photos and how they related to the video itself. And so
where they're really amazing with the symbolism that they're using.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's just absolutely, and they keep continuing this, and they're getting better and better. And it's really, it's called Music and Artists for Healing. Is the firm.
Yes.
And that's what they're doing, and they're combining all of it together in just absolutely stunning form.
I think this is amazing that they could just make nice music and get rich, but they decided that they would use their amazing ability to connect to people around the world to make a good impact, to try to pass something, to provoke us to, I don't know, look at ourselves and.
Well, yeah, because when you're doing this research, if you're an army and you're doing this research to understand what they mean, you're necessarily looking into your own soul.
Yes, and I've learned so much with them because of all this.
Truly.
And with you and I got to know you because of them. That's great.
Right. Yeah, I mean, when we look at that, and we look at Mirtes in our advanced breeding group, and oh my goodness, my God, the things we open up in that group are just monumental, and I think maybe your mind almost explodes, doesn't it, Mirtes?
I'm very grateful. It's been it's been an amazing experience. I'm very thankful.
Yeah, me too. Because I like to see what we're doing through your eyes too, right? I want to see what you're seeing.
Yeah, and she sees things that I don't see at all and points them out, and I go, "Oh yeah," you know. So hopefully I can do the same. But you know, but anyway, this all relates to Jungian psychology and the archetypes and the shadow and all the.
So this is the translation of the song now.
Yeah,
yes, a beautiful song.
Now, I don't show the video on what we're doing because then you get copyright infringements, and we're not about doing that. But Yin sings the solo with his own voice, and he only sings the first part of the song in this teaser video. Okay, but it's you know, it's not that I believe it, but that I want to try holding out, because this is all that I can do. I want to remain. I want to dream more. Even so, what I'm saying is that it's time to leave. Yeah, it's my truth. It's my truth. I'll be covered with wounds all over, but it's my fate. It's my fate. Still, I want to struggle and fight. Maybe I can never fly. I can't fly like the flower petals over there. Or though as I have rings, maybe I can't touch the sky. Still, I want to stretch my hand out. I want to run just a bit more. Now that is just something else. It relates back to the flower petals. The
and remember the Icarus painting in Blood, Sweat, and Tears, and the story of the myth that his father builds wings, but his father tells him to don't fly too close to the sun because it will melt the wings. But he goes. And
he did. He did it anyway.
Yeah.
But that's how you learn it. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right?
Correct.
But I'm reminded of this Jordan Peterson video where this young man gets up and talks about his personal nihilism, and Peterson tells him that he has to carry a load, and I don't think it was a very clear answer, because the answer really is that, you know, you're in school, you've been educated now, but now you have to go out and live your life and start using your skills that you learn in college and university to be a problem solver and solve the problems of your life as you go forward. That's what it's about. And you know, I remember coming out of 10 years of higher education, because I went to college, law school, business school, and Chinese language school. Took 10 years to do all that stuff. And, you know, I wanted to do more. You know, I really liked being in education, and obviously now, because I'm doing the Jungian channel, I like also teaching. But in order to be able to teach properly, you have to have experience. You have to be able to point back at things and say, and this is how it worked out in my life. And then you can teach. Whereas if you're just at the end of your education, whatever that may be, and you're afraid to take the next step out of the nest or to break open the egg, then you're not going to have much of a life. You have to get into life and make mistakes and then learn from them and move on and keep making mistakes. And, you know, as I often say, I've told many employees, if you're not making a mistake every day, you're not trying hard enough. And,
well, and even if you're afraid, like in the second stanza of the song, he talks about being afraid, and he still wants to struggle and fight because it's his fate, and he still thinks that he can touch the sky, and he still wants to try. And you don't want to give up. You just want to keep trying, you know.
Yeah, and you can't give up or you die. I mean, even I, at my age, I'm still trying to touch the sky, and Jerome is. We're trying to touch the sky in one way or another, and
I mean, it's exciting, and you know, I could just be in a rocking chair somewhere and doing something, but I don't. So
yeah, I mean,
there's too much to learn. I'm just too, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even tell you earlier, but you know, 10 minutes before, or not 10 minutes before, 20 minutes before this interaction that we're currently having, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine in Kuala Lumpur about starting a new business here in the United States. And if I did that, it would be a very major deal. It's been on the threshold for a decade, but I'm still going to have another conversation with him about it tomorrow morning. But it's just, you know, you can never stop. You have to, you know, I'm 73 years old and I'm not stopping. And so these same motivations that apply to a young person who's just breaking the egg. I've broken a lot of eggs, I can tell you.
Me too. But I mean, I'd never give up. So it's like, and there's always something around the corner that excites me. So
right.
Anyway, okay. Let's see. We're running kind of late here, but yeah, we can do some of it. Well, let's. Do you want to do one more thing?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, it looks like you're 45 seconds from the end of this, but.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Well, the rest of it's just black in the song that we just went through, the first page. But at the end of each one of these, a symbol starts appearing. Okay. You ready for this?
Each of the songs has a symbol at the end?
Yeah.
Each of the short film.
Each short film at the end has this. See this symbol coming together?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
See that?
Yeah.
Now watch it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What that did was make this symbol right here, which is Jin's symbol, which is a sphere. Here's the way the scheme works, which was interesting, I thought.
Mm-hmm. Is
each one of the short films, you've got Jungkook. His first short film just makes this. Mm-hmm. And then there's a little hair up here.
Yeah.
Then after Rap Monster, this comes together and makes this symbol.
Mm.
Okay. Yes, I think in the case of Jungkook, it's kind of a representation of a feather.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then and after Rap Monster does his short film, it becomes this symbol.
It blends with Rap Monster.
Oh, fascinating. Go ahead.
And then Sugar. And then Jimin looks like a bite out of an apple to me.
Yes, and yes, it is a bite of an apple. And the sugar symbol, it's like the piano keys.
Oh, yeah, piano keys. Great.
And when they blend, it forms this one that looks like the marks of a tire, a car tire.
Oh, wow.
Remember that in the story, in the short film of First Love, there is a moment when the sound of a car and a hit happens.
Mm.
And in the story, Jungkook is hit by a car.
That's right. And then the car runs
And
into the
this,
piano store, you know.
the piano store where Suga hears the Jungkook theme begin playing the piano.
Mm-hmm. And then
And we get it like that was the moment that Jungkook was hit by a car, and he like has a vision of it.
mm-hmm. And then V, there's that crack.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm obsessed with that crack in
Yes.
the egg type thing. You know, there's a little something there. But here's the most interesting part is J-Hope.
In the story, V, to defend his sister, he attacks his father. His father is abusive, and he hits his women, the daughter, and I think the mother, and the mother leaves him. And the father drinks and hits his sister. And there's a moment when he arrives, you can see this in the I Need You original version video.
Yeah.
He attacks his father with a broken bottle of soju. He breaks the bottle and attacks his father.
Yeah.
He is the one who, even if you look at the fake love video, all the members have clothes with stains of paint, but the stain on these clothes are red like blood. So he's the one that breaks the bottle of soju and attacks his father to defend his sister. And probably this is the meaning of the crack, the breaking of the glass.
Oh, that's great. And J-Hope, of course, you have Eva written in there, which is
yes, you know the story that in the story he was abandoned by his mother.
Yeah. So he wants to reunite with his mother because he's abandoned.
And when they combine, it's like painting melting or fresh painting. And it reminds of what happened to Jimin's trauma that happened when he was in a painting class at a big garden. I don't know in English how to say. And something very bad happens. He doesn't know what it was, but I don't know if it happened to him or he sees something happening to someone. And it is very traumatic, and that's his life. And that's why the painting, because it was an art class. When he was 8, oh my God, that's it. And the only one that doesn't blend is Jin's. It transforms.
Yeah, Jin is the odd man out here.
But you see that in the end of our way, the spheres they divide to 4, then they clash into one.
Yeah.
So
those become 4, which is a quaternity.
Yes.
And then they overlap. Terrific. I mean, this is all mandala work.
Yeah. Isn't that something, the way they come together? And this is just absolutely incredible.
Right. It's all mandalas, and it's all quaternity, and it's all what symbol does. I mean, going back to where I was talking about the axiom of Maria, what you have here is basically in this idea, you have something and something else, and they become a third thing. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, and then 4 is the whole thing, right? But the third thing is the symbol of the solution between 1 and 2, right?
Yeah, well, that's perfect for these up here.
Right,
This is
right,
just absolutely, yeah.
right. And so you have all these symbols that resolve dualities, and then you have a quaternity of all the symbols together, and then those quaternities start to merge
Yeah.
and become a star, basically.
There
Yes.
you go. Yeah, perfect. And you got 7 in there, and it comes down to perfect. Perfect.
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah,
Me too.
yeah, very interesting.
Anyway, this is just
Wow.
this is
Thank you,
something.
Mirtes, for this.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jerome, because he's done this amazing work
Right,
of this visual, and
right.
you made it more concrete. My
Yeah,
head, it's this mess that if I try to express it, it gets more confusing.
No, but you've got the best insights that I don't see. I mean, it really helps me to see it, and it really is just fantastic. And
yeah,
Our spheres combined.
right,
yeah, well,
right,
that's one of the things is, the VTS members, they're all combined and they're different talents and
right.
skills.
And
And
so now,
they create this great thing that's bigger than themselves.
Yes.
Okay.
right,
And that's what this should be about. And we can dialogue like this without bickering or we're just learning and we're sharing, and it's just great.
right.
Yes.
And this video itself is a demonstration of the process of how development takes place, because you have um, Jerome, who can do the very logical imagery work, and Mirtes, who has the intuition to see the symbolism, and so they connect up with me to make a third thing, which is the video, which is a symbol of that work together, and our earlier work together, which was also a duality in similar way. And then we have something new, which we don't know what will be. Okay, but when Jerome publishes this interview, then we'll have the fourth thing, which is also the unity of one thing again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I think this has been, for the first time of me doing this
Yes.
from a panelist standpoint. And, and I think we can combine this and maybe do some more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, it's going to be very interesting to see what comes out in this 7 album. I'm
Yes.
very, very interested in that.
The first 2 videos are just it's so clear of the shadow behind
Yes.
them, and the tug of war between shadow and
if you watch their previous videos, you'll see that the people dressed in black are very frequent. They are always there.
Yeah.
And we didn't know what that meant. Now we know that it was the shadow.
It was the shadow trying to pull them back.
Yes. In the video of Not Today, they are running away from the shadow. And Not Today begins in a way very similar to Black Swan.
Yeah.
In Not Today, RM begins walking in I think it's a parking in an abandoned building.
Yeah.
And then there comes the figures in black. And at the time, we didn't know that they were talking about the shadows. The shadows. All of us.
So one thing I would urge you to do, both of you, as you put this edited video together, is to put into the description of this interview links to these videos that you're referring to, Mirtes, so people can go back and refer to those.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
I can.
Yeah, if you could, we could do a list of references, particularly for people that want to look at the tunes, and there's a lot of information she sent me on that. But yeah, and they could have that just to click down, so kind of a guide.
Right.
That's a good suggestion. Yeah, we'll do that.
It's important.
Yes.
So, anyway.
Well, and so we remind people to watch Skip's channel for Mirtes's series. She's got, what, 4 interviews over there? And
Yes, 3, but the Blood, Sweat, and Tears one was so long that it was divided into